everyone, and happy thanks 4th of Christmaween, stir. Welcome once again to Creepy Cheapies with Dr. Lady, where we look for the best in latex monster masks and elevate the art of monster masks from hobby all the way to legitimized mental illness. Today's mask was announced in 2021, I believe, IIRC, but did not actually become available until 22, which is to say it was late 2022 before you could get your hands or pinchers or claws or flippers or whatever you have on one, but I think it was announced in 21. But anyway, it's from the folks at Ghoulish Productions, and it is the super cool, if you can find one, a little hard to find. I don't think they made as many of these as they did some of their masks because it's a little off the wall and a little bit maybe not as relatable as like a skull or a vampire or something, but super cool mask and a beautiful sculpture called Fire Ant. Yes, and if you're thinking he looks familiar, it may be because you own one already and you saw it in the last room on the shelf couple minutes ago, or it could be you could be thinking of Mant, which was a film within a film parody of radiation monster movies in the movie Matinee, which came out in 1993 and starred John Goodman as a character sort of spoofing William Castle, making cheap monster movies in the late 50s and early 60s. Now in Mant, which obviously is a combination of man and ant, kind of like they were spoofing the alligator people and the wasp woman and the attack of the 50-foot woman and the fly and all those where radiation does weird things to humans. In Mant, there was an ant mask, but it looked pretty different. It had the basic, the little chompy mandibles there, and it had ant antenna, but it was pretty different other than that. But you could be thinking of that. You might have seen Mant. Now the Fire Ant mask, also known as the Fire Ant from Planet X, although now that I think of it, I don't know whether that's Planet X or technically if that's Planet Roman numeral 10. I wonder what, let me ask him. Say, do the inhabitants of your planet think of it as Planet X or Planet Roman numeral 10? Because I don't know why I'm asking him. Truth be known, I don't speak a word of Fire Ant. I don't. I know some Spanish, only a little, and that's kind of pathetic because straight A's in Spanish for 3 years, and today the only 2 words I remember are taco and bell. Okay, not quite that bad, but I can follow a Spanish movie, a Spanish language movie along well enough, although I don't speak it fluently. I can follow the plot of a Spanish movie because I understand that much of what's being spoken. But Fire Ant, I'm lost. I never know what the Fire Ants are talking about when I try to watch one of their movies. And because of the difficulty in translation, it's very difficult to find one dubbed into English from their planet. It's a difficult language to master, for one thing, especially with our Earth-like, humanoid, limited vocabulary, musculature, and facial appendages, and that whole structure just isn't the same. But I don't find many movies dubbed into English from the Fire Ant planet. It just is very rare. And boy, good luck even finding one subtitled. Even the subtitled movies from his planet, it's usually in cockroach or dust mite or something, almost never English. So, but that's okay. I understand the movies on their planet are not that exciting anyway. Entirely too many of them take place at picnics, as I understand it. Where was I? Anyway, the wonderful Fire Ant mask that I really like, $50 or $55, which is pretty impressive when you consider that that's 21st century dollars and not like, $1954 or something. And no, that's today kind of dollars. That's a pretty amazing deal, I think. This is a very deluxe and complex mask. I hope you can see all the sculpting there. Now, I did cheat a little bit with this one, and I only tell you that so that you won't get one and go, oh, Dr. Lady had one that looked great, and I got, cheated because mine doesn't look as good. So I tell you, Actually, this isn't cheating. I'm not really cheating when I fix it up with an airbrush a little bit. I think what would be cheating is if I didn't tell you. So when I tell you, I think that's only fair. And I will tell you, this one had what I consider to be a flaw. And if you look at those blue eyes, they're like metallic blue. And by the way, I don't have a remote zoom here, so you'll just have to lean in really close. Okay, you have to lean in close to the screen to see clearly here. It had what I considered a flaw. You see those black rings around his metallic blue eyes? Okay, he does come with black rings around the eyes, but on this particular copy, the metallic blue, which is to say it's like a silver and blue combo, blue with silver in it, or as we fine artists call it, blilver. The blilver paint spattered a bit onto the black rings around the eyes and then on out onto the red a little bit. And I thought, you know, 9 people out of 10 probably wouldn't notice that or wouldn't think anything of it. But I thought, neatness counts. I can tidy that up a bit. So I took a little airbrush paint and airbrushed those black lines around the eyes with a little more clarity and definition, a little more sharpness, a little more focus. And then I had to take a little bit of red. I took transparent red paint and went around the red just a little bit here and there where there was a little of the blilver paint spattered onto it. But that's all I did to him. As far as like where you see these black lines and stuff, that's how it comes. So it did come with that, including the little spiky things on the back being hit with the black, and his little chompy teeth and his mandibles being darkened at the tips. All that was the way it came. But I did clarify those eyes and try to bring them into a little sharper, clearer focus because of the splattering, which might not be an issue anyway, because maybe I just got one that had a little blue splatter onto the red, and maybe you won't. But anyway, if you are displaying this guy, be sure to do something to make sure the latex is displayed in its original shape as cast, as molded. And I only mention that in this case because he has this unusual set of appendages here. Anytime you have protruding protuberances like antenna or big horns or big oversized ears or anything sticking out of a mask, it can over time stress the latex because it's added weight somewhere than right on the head. See if you cut these off, imagine that. No, I'm not going to do that, don't worry. Scared him for a minute there. And I thought he didn't speak English. If you cut these off, you would just have a head shape, basically. But these add weight out in the air, away from his head. And it's possible that over time, this could shorten the shelf life of the mask because those will droop, okay? And those could crimp a little in there, and they could deteriorate more rapidly than latex masks normally deteriorate if you aren't careful to have this stuffed out into shape so this isn't sagging and drooping too much. Just a word of caution there. Use your own judgment, but you know, sometimes I like to put a piece of Gorilla Tape on the inside of the mask to make sure it's pressed up against there and the latex is stuck out and not being pressed in by added weight. Like, see, you don't want this happening. No. Not that it would happen to the extent that I just showed you, but you know, over time, things deteriorate. I know, so do people. It's true. He's got me there. But I can't believe you can get this cool looking of a piece of monster art for the $50, $55 neighborhood in 2023 dollars, or 2021 dollars is when it was supposed to have been released. Kind of amazing. Kind of amazing. As far as what you'd wear with it, if you don't want to go to a ton of trouble and make a red monster suit that's all made of a million pieces hot glued together of like red foam or something that really matches and looks like a big monster body, you could always fall back on the Fly look, which is how the one looked in Mant, which is to say just normal clothes and then a lab coat like a scientist with the head. And that reminds me, now that I think of it, you can get rubber sort of novelty lobster pinchers, like lobster hands, big pinchers. And yeah, I know that's more crustacean than insectoid, but still I think you could get away with it. And if you saw them with a red bug head, I think they would look like bug pinchers, so you might consider using those for his hands. In other news, I don't know why they don't offer these in more than one color. You know, he could be more than one kind of bug, really. Don't you think? Or don't you? I mean, if he was green, he could be okay, some sort of bug, right? Has anybody done a mask called a humantis? You know, Humantis, humantis? I don't think anybody has. Anyway, he could be a humantis, or ooh, if they just painted him solid black, he could be a black ant. And imagine that, if this was just super shiny, you wouldn't even need a lot of other detail on it, just really high gloss black all over, like a black ant. He's a very versatile mask. You could, well, they could put a gray granny wig on him, and he could be a great ant. They could put a mustache and beard on him, and he could be Uncle Ant, right? If he cheered you up when you were sad, he could be an anti-depressed ant. He could join a race and be a participant. And if he got sued, he'd be a defendant. And that stuff that forms in the corners of his eyes when he first wakes up in the morning, that nasty stuff, that's ant-eye matter. Yeah. And that's about enough of that. So let's just move on. See you again next week, and I hope you have a good week. And I hope you have a good week too, Fire Ant from Planet X, or whatever you call your planet. Good night.